I would look so cute as a DJ. Wah, 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 wah. Hello, and welcome back to the India and Stuff podcast. I hope you can't hear the squeakiness of my leather jacket on the show, but if you can, my B, guys, my B. I just had to wear it. It's a little chilly in my office tonight, but I wanted to do this fun episode really quickly before I lose all light in the hopes that if you're watching me, I don't turn into just a giant blob by the end of this because the sun is setting very quickly. But I'm really happy that it's spring, y'all. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm real happy for the sunshine. Seasonal depression is no joking matter. But I love to make self-deprecating jokes. I kicked the trash can. Okay. Hey, this is my chaos that I'm bringing to the table tonight. And it's actually perfect because this whole episode is about one of our very chaotic trips out west, which was this time last year, basically, last March. And so I thought it'd be really fun just to kind of recap our road trip out west and also give you some really fun, tangible, low-cost travel tips for your next big adventure. So this will be a fun, chaotic, quick listen, and I hope it brings a smile to your face tonight. Let's do it! So, the year was 2023. The vibes were low. We had just come off a very emotional winter season. Christmas was rough. Around the new year, we found out that our sweet, sweet kitty, Pip, who was 2 years old, maybe 2.5, had feline leukemia. And as people who do not have children, we've said it before, right? Our cats are our kids. Like, your pets are so important to you. They're the little beings that love you unconditionally and that you snuggle with every single night and that walk up to the door as soon as you get home. So we had Pip for a long time. I mean, as long as you can when you have a 2.5-year-old cat. He wandered into our garage as a kitten and we never found his owners, so we assumed he was a stray and adopted him from there on out. And he was literally, guys, he was my child. He would suck on my fingers, as if I was his mom and he was nursing. It was so cute. He would sit right on my lap during COVID on Zoom calls and just be right there, just ready to say hi. He'd be so precious. So he's the sweetest ever. And so this time last year, we kind of find out in January, right as the year starts. No, it was December. It was right before Christmas. We found out that he had feline leukemia. And we were okay, that's impossible. He's 2 years old. He's so cute. He's so tiny. He seems so healthy. He has all this energy. And the vet was yeah, it's not just a polyp like we thought it was. It's a tumor the size of a baseball, and it's crushing his air pipe, and you could either pay $6,000 to try to remove it, and then it'll just probably come back in the next couple years, or you can just let him live the next couple weeks of his life, and then we'll put him down. Keep in mind, again, my birthday is Christmas Eve, then we had Christmas, and then we get to New Year. So, this is already a chaotic time, and now there's a huge damper on the whole mood, knowing that my little buddy, my little best friend, my little shadow is gonna die. It was heartbreaking. It was so terrible. And so I was, not doing well with it, and, I mean, I never thought I would be the person to cry over a cat that literally came off the street and basically from the trash. But you know how pets are. They just, steal your whole heart, and it was so sad. So all that to say, we had to put him down, and it was heartbreaking, and we were in a depression. Both of us were. It was so sad. But after a few weeks of that, we were okay, we both work for ourselves, and we really want to, cheer ourselves up and do something, and we didn't really get fancy Christmas presents, so we're let's save up and go out west. We love out west, right? I love the mountains. I love the desert vibes. I love the desert vibes. No, but genuinely, I love it. I love being warm, but not humid. I love mountains. I love the architecture. I love the stucco homes and the terracotta roofs, and I've always wanted a Spanish style home. Um, but anyway, we were like, we have to do this. So we saved, pinched our pennies, and we're like, let's take 3 to 4 weeks off because we can. We work for ourselves. Not even off, just like on the road. And let's camp. Let's go camping out west. And so we start saving for it. So we have to put Pip down. It's like $2,000 for whatever reason. The medical bills at MedVet plus actually putting a pet down for some reason is $300. So we do that, and we're like sobbing through that. 2-3 weeks later, the heater in our home just goes out. That's a $5,000 replacement. So we had to just start paying for that. And so we're like, this is not a good time necessarily to go to this trip, but like we also need to. This is not a good time to be home. We're so stressed and we're like depresso. So we're like, we have to do something to kind of go bond as a couple and be inspired again. So we're still like, we're doing our trip. So we pack up my husband's parents' SUV. They let us borrow it for the trip. We now bought it off of them, but they let us borrow, which was so generous. So we didn't have to worry about a vehicle big enough. And we loaded up our tents. And we're thinking like, this is March. This is spring break season, and we're going west. It's going to get warmer. It's going to be fine. People do spring break all the time. Holy heck, y'all, it was not. It was not what we thought. So we start off and we head down. So I will just paint the whole trip for you. We start off in Ohio. We head down. Our first stop was at a random place in, I always forget the name, Kentucky, Texarkana. That's it. Texarkana. We stayed at a rest stop in our car. We slept there overnight. And then we keep driving and we get to Dallas. And so we're like, let's tent camp in Dallas. There's like nice bodies of water. You can get a spot. You can reserve a spot at like a camping site. So we reserve a spot and we get there and it's 48 degrees. It's foggy as all get out. There, you can't see anything. And there was no one else there camping in their tent because they're all like smarter than we are and they were all in their RVs. And so we pull up and we're like, yay, like first leg of our trip, woo, But we slept in our tent that night and then woke up and went to the Village Church, which is pastored by Matt Chandler. And so we like roll in fresh out of our, camping excursion to church. And we're like, man, we really appreciate this guy's ministry and his leadership. Would love to be here in person one time. This is like once in a lifetime stuff, right? When you go on a road trip, you're like, yeah, I'm like not going to be here next week, so I better go. We walk in and the greeter at the door was like, oh, hi, there's an overflow at the service. So, you guys can be back in this room and we'll stream it. We'll live stream the service. And I'm like, we do that at home all the time. We came to like experience this in person, but it's fine. Jesus works through screens too. That's good. So we did that. And then we go from Dallas over to, so I like reserved us a camping spot at this sand dune place in West Texas, because Texas is enormous, as I'm learning. And so I reserved us a spot. And so basically we're driving for another 6 hours that Sunday morning across Texas to kind of get to the other side. And there's a sand dune camping spot. So I'm like, cool, we'll stay there. So then as we're driving, y'all, the wind is picking up and there are like actual tumbleweeds going across the road. I was like, what? Like, this is Texas. Come on. Ain't no hold 'em. So I was like, what? So we pull over at this gas station and like signs are shaking, things are just flying over. Trash cans are blowing across. And I'm like, what is happening? There's no earthly way we are going to be tent camping in a sand dune park. Like, that's not going to happen. So we start freaking out. I'm like, is there a tornado? And they're like, no, it's just like high winds. But it said like winds up to 60 miles an hour. And the Texans were like, yeah, this is kind of normal. I was like, what? So some places in America are kind of weird. So I was like, all right, we have to kind of make an emergency decision. Let's get a hotel for the night. And that's just kind of sad rule number one is if you really aren't feeling it and you're traveling on a budget, definitely set aside some emergency money because nothing would suck more than trying to enjoy your trip and being like, sorry, we don't even have money for like an emergency hotel room or an extra night at some place that we really love. So I'm glad that we did it, but I was still sad because it's like, it's not cheap. It's like $200 anytime you want to stay anywhere anymore for a night. So we do that. We go grab some food and drinks at a nearby taco place, and the wind is still going insane. And as we're going to bed, we decide to do a pit stop. We're like, hey, we were just going to keep going to New Mexico to go to the Carlsbad National Parks, which is like this really cool giant cave underground. It's a huge national park. And it's all under the earth. So I was like, let's do that. But then we like about to go to bed, and I'm like, hey, this place called Marfa, Texas is 2.5 hours from here. It's not on our way at all. It's south. We are going like, burp, 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 and it would be down. And then we'd have to shoot back up to get to New Mexico. But it looks cool. And there's this like not Vogue, what's it called? Prada art installation, and a lot of photographers take photos with it. And I'm like, this could be a fun photo op. And a part of this trip was for our social media platforms. We do content creation as well as photography and film, right? So we're like, we want to get some cool content while we're here and record a lot of this experience. So we're like, should we do this? So we decide, yes, let's do it, even though it's going to be more traveling, more driving, more money and gas, and more time. We're like, let's do it. That's what a good adventure trip is for. So we wake up really, really early the next day, and I think like 5 a.m., drive down to Marfa, have a fun little drive, and get there. And it's like low-key ghost town vibes. I'm sure, excuse me, I just burped. I'm sure in the summertime with your friends and a good drink and a lot of fun, like concert potential, I'm sure it's the place to be. But it's in the middle of actual nowhere, and it's trying to be like an artsy, creative hub as far as like retreats, like think Coachella or think artists in residency, but not like an actual functioning town that's gonna be the next Austin or the next Nashville. Like it's not like that, but it's like this would be fun to like go to seasonally. So we go there, take some photos, have some fun, and then we head back up to New Mexico. So we get to Carlsbad National Park. We do our little walkie walk, have a lot of fun. I always just recommend whenever you're feeling like low and you want to get out of the house and travel, go to a national park. It's usually so inexpensive compared to anything else you do when you travel. And it just reconnects you with God and nature in just the most amazing ways. Like to be hundreds of, I don't remember, a mile? I think the national park goes 1 mile underground. It's like deeper than the Empire State Building if it was underground. Yeah, I don't know. Like when you're just sitting there in this crazy cave with the love of your life on a random Wednesday, walking around going, wow, yeah, this is life. Like what? It's so fun. It's so cool. So we had our day there. Also, we were like the only youngish people there. There's a whole bunch of like retired folks walking around, and we're just like, we work for ourselves. Like, hi. So that was a lot of fun. And then we end up camping in, I think, Lincoln National Forest that night in New Mexico. And then the next day, go to another national park, the White Sand Dunes. White Sand Dunes, so fun. Really, really cool. The New Mexico is kind of interesting. There's like missile launch test sites, and I guess they did a lot of is that right? No, nuclear testing. I always think of the Indiana Jones movie where he locks himself in a refrigerator for like the nuclear bomb test, and then he somehow survives. But anyway, New Mexico is interesting because I think a lot of the, you know, like land has been used for the army to like test different missiles, and so they were saying at the White Sands National Park, like, oh yeah, sometimes we close the park down for like missile testing. And I was like, are y'all just gonna like fire a missile while I'm like rolling around on this sand dune? Like, what's happening? But overall, 10 out of 10 for that national park. That's okay. That's generous. 7 out of 10. You should definitely go if you get the chance. There's not a ton of trails or anything specific to do, but it was a lot of fun. It was just like a big adult playground. Everyone who was there who had dogs just had them running around. Like, we had a lot of fun there. It was really cool. I took a nap on the sand, which isn't a good idea because it didn't feel like it was like a hot day. It was pretty cold, but I got terrible sunburn. So don't do that. And then after that, we were like, now what? So our end goal, I guess I should have started with this. Our end goal of this trip was to get to Los Angeles because my husband had a short film that he won a competition for, and so it was screening in LA. So we're like, end goal is Orange County. We're staying with our friends in Los Angeles area, and then we're gonna watch this film. And then Ian's gonna drive back, and I have to fly back because I was in my friend's wedding. So that was our end goal, right? We were like, we have to do all these things. We can stop wherever, but then this is where we're landing. So the next day after New Mexico, we were like, all right, like, now what? Do we stay here for another day? Do we go through and just kind of get there early? Like, we did want to hit up Zion and Yosemite because, again, the mountains heal your soul. And we're like, let's do this while we're out here. Let's go on this big adventure. And I remember being like, hey, I have a friend who lives in Phoenix. We should just call up Candace, call up my friend, and see if we can just stay there for a night. And at this point, we were really in desperate need of like a shower. We had hiked. We had been sleeping in the car because we tried to camp, and you never know if there's bears, and it was also freezing the whole time. So we call up Candace, who lives in Phoenix, which is like 7 hours away from the White Sands National Park. And I was like, hey, what are the odds that like if we came to your house at like 9 p.m. tonight, we could just crash there? And she was like, totally. Oh my gosh. So we did. So when you think about things as if you're just hanging out at your house and then you're like, let me just like drive 7 hours real fast to like crash at someone's home, you'd probably be like, no, I could get a hotel. I could do something else. But when you're out, I don't know, when you're out there in the West, things just hit different. When you're traveling and you're just like, yeah, this is about the journey, not the destination. We were just like, let's do it. So we love listening to podcasts and audiobooks. So we like queue up a podcast and hit the road and start driving. And then we get to Phoenix area and had In-N-Out for dinner, which is another great part of going out west. And then roll up to our friend's house and stay the night with her, which was a lot of fun. And then we were like, okay, well, like we're recapping our plan with them because they live in Arizona. So we're like, yeah, we were thinking of driving up, passing through Sedona, and going to Zion, which is in Utah. And then from Zion, like we'll stay there for 3 nights, and then we'll go to Yosemite, stay there, and then we'll go down to LA, and that's our end goal. And they were like, you should check the weather because I'm pretty sure Zion's closed and Yosemite's closed. We were like, come again? What? We just saved up all our pennies and left Ohio to come hang out at these places. What do you mean they're closed? And sure enough, the weather was so unseasonably, unpredictably, yada yada, so bad. There was like, I think it was 7 feet of snow was in Yosemite Valley. And they were like closing roads and trucks were like not allowed to get through. So we're like, okay, Yosemite's out of the question. And then there was something similar with Zion. They were like, yeah, there's like multiple inches of snowfall, lots of ice. You can't really do any of the trails safely. We don't recommend anyone come. And there's no way we could tent camp. So we'd have to like pay extra to just be in the snowy area of a national park, and it would be another like $700-800 just to like be there and not be able to hike anything, which is not the point. So we were pretty disappointed, and it kind of threw a huge wrench in the plan. We're like, man, like we were so desperate to get out of Ohio, we didn't even think about the weather being not good. I don't know. So we were like, rats, what do we do? So we ended up staying in Phoenix another night in a parking lot because our friends had other commitments and couldn't host us a second night. So we like roll up to a parking lot and stay the night there. And it was crazy. And so we're trying to like map out the plan. So we take the next day to go to a Starbucks, and we're working and we're Googling and trying to figure out what to do. And we're like, all right, let's go to this campsite, an hour outside of town tonight and see what we can do. We we roll up and they're like, sorry, just sold the last campsite pass. There's no more sites. And we're like, are you serious? Then we go back to the old parking lot, guys. Oh my gosh. So this was a casino parking lot in Phoenix. And we're like, what are we gonna do? We can't pitch our tent right now. It's cold. Our friends who live here, unfortunately, like couldn't host us again, which is all fine. We didn't plan this out. We were like, meh, let's figure this out. So we move all of our luggage in the back, and we had packed a car air mattress, which is really convenient. My husband is very smart with those things. Packs it. We start like blowing it up to get ready for night number 2, sleeping in a parking lot. And the security guys on their little bikes come up and flash their lights in the window, which is signal for party's over, you gotta leave. And we were like, please, we'll like go in and put $20 on black. Like, please don't kick us out. And they were like, sorry, like we can't have you guys here. And I was like, come on. So that night was a hard one because we were so tired and it was just such a gross rainy day in Phoenix anyway. It was cold, it was rainy. So we ended up driving to a hotel and we're like, maybe we'll just get a hotel. Ian walks in and it was $380 a night. And it was like a Hampton Inn. It was not anything fancy. And we're like, there's no way we're doing that. So we drive to a different hotel parking lot and just like put the pillows in the windows. We're like, please, no one kick us out. Like, we were like, come on, like there's no other choice. So unfortunately didn't sleep very well that night because people were leaving the hotel at like 4 a.m. and I was hearing everyone and just so nervous we were gonna get kicked out. But that one was fine. And then the next morning we waltz into a very fancy coffee shop, order our fancy lattes, and pretend like we're back to normal society. So it's so insane being, I don't know, when you travel, it's like, what's happening? But then we go from the Phoenix area and decide, okay, we can't go to the national parks we were hoping to. Let's pivot. Let's go up to Sedona for a night, which was where we had spent our honeymoons. We're like, that'll be cute and nostalgic. We'll stay there for a night or two. And then we'll make our way to Vegas to visit my friend Katie, who lives in Las Vegas. And we'll stay with her. We'll get a hotel. And then we will go to Joshua Tree and then go to California. Joshua Tree's in California, Orange County. You know what I mean. So that's the plan. We go up to Sedona, and it really was unprecedented weather season. It was snowing in Sedona, Arizona in the middle of March. I was like, what is happening? It was such an interesting thing seeing gorgeous red rocks coated in white snow. It was like Mars and just very interesting. But that was really fun. We camped in our car. It was very muddy, but I remember the stars were really pretty. The mountains were snow-capped in the distance. It just felt very otherworldly. We did a small hike and just had a little bit of fun. And yeah, there was another story in there of Ian like put his pants, his favorite like sweatpants, on the roof of our car to dry. And because he like got them wet while we were hiking, so he put them up to dry and he had like another layer on. And we both forgot about it and we started driving away. They flew off. We didn't realize it. And then we get like 30 minutes down the road and he's like, where are my sweatpants? And so I was like, oh no. So we had to like backtrack in the dark in Sedona and we saw a lump in the street and Ian like makes me pull the car over, hops out, runs into traffic to grab his favorite pants. So pants are recovered, all is well. But that was our time in Arizona last year. And then from Arizona, we go, whoop, let's go over to Vegas. And we get there. Really gorgeous, by the way. Anytime you're just driving in the West, those sunsets, like, they hit different. So we get to Las Vegas. It was my first time there. And it's so fun and crazy and interesting. I'll have to tell you my whole Vegas story another time, but it was a lot of fun. It was great to see my friend Katie. And again, guys, I was like, I'm getting my warm Western vacation out of this. And we got a hotel specifically with an outdoor pool with palm trees, because I was like, I need the palm trees for my photos, and a hot tub. And again, it's unseasonably cold. And so we sit out there. The hot tub is broken. The pool is not heated. And it was 50 degrees. It was cold. It was not nice. And I'm sitting there in a bikini and I'm like, I will get tan. It did not get tan. So that was Vegas. It was crazy. It was so fun though. And then we say our goodbyes to my friend Katie, spent I think 2 nights there, and start heading over to Joshua Tree National Park in California. So keep in mind at this point, we're supposed to spend significant time in 2 different national parks, but instead we had to make our detour trips. So we got to Joshua Tree and we were like, let's just find a spot. We'll put our tent there. Again, this is Southern California. Joshua Tree is pretty low in California. I'm expecting it to be warm. It's not warm. We find a spot, throw our tent there, pay the fee for a couple nights, and we're like, we'll figure this out. If it's not going to be a good fit, we'll go down to San Diego and then go up to Orange County. But if it is a good fit, we'll just stay here the whole week. And I regret not bringing more cool outfits because Joshua Tree is really pretty, but I just like, we didn't take any good photos there because I was like, I don't know, just in survival mode. And I packed like all of my camping clothes, which are not cute. So anyway, we we have neighbors at this campsite who were very interesting, but sweet souls. So we kind of like chatted with them. You know, they shared a meal with us, which was fun. But it was a very interesting time. And we did some hikes there, which was cool. I didn't think Joshua Tree had elevation or any kind of trails like that. But again, it was so unseasonably weathery that it was rainy. The winds were terrible. And so we were like smushed. I think we were in the Boulder. It was like the Boulder campground. I forget the name of it. But we like shoved our tent in between these giant rocks to kind of hopefully block a lot of the wind. I don't think we slept in the car while we were there. I think we did tent every night, but it was pretty gnarly. Like it was not pleasurable because the wind was slapping the side of the tent. And so it's like, how do I do this? It's like, I don't know. It was like thud, 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 thud. You know, the whole time you're trying to sleep and you're on rocks. So we have our little air mattress and then our sleeping bags on top of it. So even though it's not completely uncomfortable, it's also not extremely cozy. So that was our time at Joshua Tree. I did really like Ian and I had a great time. You know, when you're just traveling with your best friend, like hiking together, talking, bonding, all of that fun stuff was a lot of fun. So that was that. And then we headed over to, I remember also, wait, caveat, I kept driving into town because there was no cell service in Joshua Tree. And I kept driving into town to, I think it's 27 Palms or 29 Palms is like the little town right next to it, to go to the Starbucks every day to like sit and work because I had deadlines and things that were happening during all of this. So I was like trying to like get some photo edits done and answer emails and, you know, make sure my clients knew I was alive because I was like, yeah, I'll just be working on the road. And I didn't expect there wasn't going to be any service. So then we go from Joshua Tree and drive the 1 hour and 40 minutes to Orange County, California, which is basically the larger part of LA. And I just still think that's so crazy. You can be in some place that feels so remote, the desert vibes, Joshua Tree just feels so otherworldly. And then you drive less than 2 hours away and you are in like one of the most well-known, iconic places in the whole world. It's kind of crazy. So we got to Orange County. It felt so good to see our friends Mariah and Jacob, and they let us crash with them at their apartment for a few nights. It felt great to take a shower. Praise the Lord. It was very nice to kind of have some accommodations again after camping for so long. I did do one shower in a bucket, which was a new one for me. So it was when we were in Joshua Tree. It was a couple days in. I was feeling really crusty. And so we boiled water and mixed it with, you know, lukewarm water from the services. Like usually most campgrounds just have a toilet and maybe like a sink. So we took some sink water, mixed it with boiling water so it was like lukewarm. And I just crouched in the weird little bathroom at the national park and took like a towel that we had. It was just like scrubbing myself because it was pretty gross. So that is the downside about camping. But yes, it felt great to see Mariah and Jacob. We stayed with them for a few days, had such a fun time exploring OC and going to the beach, even though it was freezing. While we were in Joshua Tree, apparently it snowed in LA. So that was fun. And it was just kind of a rainy like vibe, which is not what you usually want when you're like, I'm going to California. Like you go there for the sun in the 70s and all that stuff. So that was that. And then after a few days there, we go up to actual LA and stayed on Hermosa Beach for my husband's film screening. And we were part of the Filmapalooza competition. And so we went to that. And then I had to fly home to be a bridesmaid literally the day after my husband's film screened. I like flew home. I had missed the rehearsal for my friend's event, go straight to the rehearsal dinner, say my hellos, and then I host one of her friends, and then the next day I'm like walking down an aisle. So it was such a chaotic like 3.5 weeks, but it was still so fun. And I want to share all of the ups and downs of our trips because I just feel like they're always so different than how you think they're going to be, but they're still a blast. So thankfully, while I was walking down the aisle, my husband was walking across red carpet, and then the next day he took off and drove all the way home from LA to Ohio. So he did the reverse of our trip with way less stops. So God bless that man. He drives. He's like totally cool with like driving across the country. And I'm like, I'd do it with you if we're like camping and making it like a road trip, but I would not do it by myself. And he enjoys it. I do not. So, all that to say, we are not strangers to traveling. We're not strangers to traveling on a budget either. And so I thought it'd be fun to kind of pop in with some of our travel tips. Obviously, a lot of that specific trip, we did a lot of car camping, tent camping, staying with friends. And if that is not your style, or specifically if like the camping is not your style, some of these suggestions might not be your thing, but maybe you could try it. Maybe something new would happen. But couple money saving tips for traveling. Obviously, like I just mentioned, stay with friends. If you have a friend who has moved somewhere cool or somewhere medium cool, somewhere in proximity of somewhere cool, ask them if you can crash on their couch for a night or take them out to breakfast in exchange for a stay, or just visit them because odds are they want to hang out with you too. So I have one of my closest friends lives in New York. One of my friends moved to Florida at one point. Obviously, I have a friend in Vegas, friends in California, friends in Phoenix. And it's just really great to have people that you can be like, hey, like I'm coming through. Can I stay with you? And usually you can also return the favor. You know, most of my friends aren't like, I have to go to Columbus. Can I crash with you? I have to be in Ohio. But when they do, you're able to be like, yes, anytime. So stay with friends if you can. That's a great one. Obviously, the camping tip is if you are going somewhere specifically for nature and you have the choice of doing like a cabin or an Airbnb, if you have the funds, do it. I think that's so fun. We've done plenty of trips like that, and they're always a blast. But if you're like, I want to save some money and I really, really want to go hiking, or I want to go to Yosemite, but it sounds so expensive, or I want to go see Sedona, but like I don't know where to stay. Camp. Consider camping. Consider camping. I sound like a public service ad, but consider camping. We love it. Like obviously this trip specifically was very cold, not ideal conditions for camping, but when you are out there anyway, it just gets you back to the basics of survival skills. Like what are we eating tonight? How are we staying warm tonight? And what can I do to be of service to the people around me and to honor the nature that I'm in? I think camping's a lot of fun and a big part of what we look forward to when we travel. So that's always fun. Usually you can just find a campsite and pay online for the number of nights you need. If you're someone that has an RV, I think it's a little different. You'll want to look for like a water hookup. So usually I think it's like gray water and blue. One is fresh and one is for like emptying your water tanks. But you want to look for a water and electric hookup if you have an RV, and you just pay a fee. It's usually between 10 and 20 bucks a night for a tent and between 10 and 50 bucks a night for a camper. I hope 50 is not normal, but it might be. I don't know. But yeah, that's definitely something that's fun and gets you, especially if you're doing it kind of in a national park, it's getting you right there. So you're eliminating having to pay to go in and out of the park every day. You're eliminating getting stuck in traffic if you're going to a really popular national park like Yosemite or Glacier. You're basically saving yourself some money and some time by saying, I'm just going to stay here in the park and be a part of this. And I think it's usually a lot of fun. So that is my lodging tip. Another is if you have any kind of thing to offer, photography, social media platform, content creation skills, video, you can always reach out to an Airbnb host and offer to do a trade to save some money on your lodging. I will say I haven't had success with this personally, but I also haven't asked that much at all. But yeah, if you're like, I really want to go to, I don't know, Orange Beach, Alabama, and there's this gorgeous Airbnb there, and it's $400 a night. But I have a following of 10,000 on my Instagram, and I specialize in travel tips. There you go. You can offer to do a piece of content in exchange for one night or a discounted night or something like that. But yeah, I just think people, a lot of the times we limit ourselves and think that, oh, everything's so expensive, or it's just, I'm not going to travel like that, so I can't travel. There's so many things you can do to cut down the costs on a trip, especially a road trip. So another tip is obviously looking at different flights. If you're not a road tripper, looking at flights on the Hopper app and Google Flights, and looking for flights out of the non-giant airports. So for us, we're in Columbus, Ohio. That's the easiest airport to get to. For us, it's 15 minutes down the road, and it's an international airport. But if I fly out of John Glenn, which is a smaller airport that only has a couple flights to a few cities, that will be half the cost usually. If I fly out of Cleveland or Cincinnati, half the cost usually. So look around if you're into the flying, like look for flights at airports that are adjacent to you. Maybe it takes a little extra time to coordinate a ride there or dropping off your car, or maybe you'll pay more in parking fees. So it might not always be worth it, but it's always worth looking just so you know if you're like, oh my gosh, this flight's $500, but wait, it's only $150 from an airport 30 minutes down the road. No brainer. So that's my flying tip. But for road trips, another money saving tip that we do a lot of is very simple. Just pack your groceries. If you are using your own car, stock up at Aldi, make your meals ahead of time, or at least a meal list of like, hey, we want to do peanut butter and jellies. We want to do hot dogs, and we have a little, kerosene grill, or we want to do, I don't know, like granola on the trails and a lot of fresh fruit. Like you can pack all of that, some extra bottled water with you so that when you go, you're not stopping at Buc-ee's and all the little side quests, all your little fast food places to get a little snack, because that's going to add up much more than you realize. But if you come prepared and you're like, oh yeah, I've got my what are the beef sticks that I get now? My chomps. Yes, I love chomps. Yeah, I've got my chomps already. I've got my chips, chomps and chips. I've got my chocolate. I don't know. But if you already pack your snacks and you kind of go with a few menu ideas in mind and maybe like think, okay, I'm going to do one or two nice restaurants and the rest is going to be what we've got and maybe fast food options or swinging through a Walmart to grab some more ingredients instead of going out to eat every single day of your trip. Another money saving tip for people who like to travel, I love getting a little souvenir when I go places, but this is my version of a souvenir these days. Instead of buying something at a mainstream place that has like the name of where you were on it, or even at like just stores that are just trying to make a little extra cash, thrift. Y'all know I'm already loving thrifting. It's my personality at this point. But it's a fun way to like add a sense of treasure hunting to your trip, add a sense of souvenir to your trip without it being this whole giant thing. So like when I was in Phoenix with this specific road trip, I took a couple hours and walked around to Goodwill, and I got a sweatshirt that I really like and a couple accessories that I really enjoyed. I think I go to a thrift store every time I travel just because you never know. Now you have a piece with a story. And then if you do find something that has a local, name on it, it's like, cool. Like I was able to save myself $55 by not getting a sweatshirt at this national park. Instead, I got this vintage one at a Goodwill. So that's a fun one. Another thing, this one's more for international trips and international traveling, but when I went to Italy and Greece, I packed extra clothes that I was fine to get rid of so that when I bought other souvenirs, I could lighten my bag and replace those items. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna bring some shirts that I'm kind of planning on getting rid of or that don't fit really well, or I'm just like, fine if I part with this. And then when I was buying extra things there, like cute leather journal or this, fancy dress that I got in Italy, I had room in my bag and I could, leave behind these items that I was about to donate anyway, and it was not a big loss. So there you go. I definitely plan on doing more travel tips in the future. Obviously, travel is something I love to do. There are some more things I'm going to try out this year with travel and let you guys know what's working. One of them is the rewards points with credit cards. We really want to get into that whole system. So we just opened a Chase Sapphire rewards account, and we've heard great things about the point system, and especially when it comes to flights and hotels. So we're hoping that by opening that new card, we can rack up those points and start to use them towards our travels, which would be really awesome. So if all that works out, I will keep you posted, and hopefully that'll save us quite a lot of money going forward. But I hope this was fun for you. Thanks for listening to our crazy adventures. Obviously, that was very much one of the most chaotic trips, but we've had a lot of other ones that were peaceful and more enjoyable, but that one's one for the books for sure. If you have any other tips that you would add for the money savers out there who are trying to get out of the house and travel a little bit, let me know below in the comment section. And I'm going to put a poll here on the Spotify thing, and then I think on YouTube I can do one too. But I'm going to ask some questions to you guys. Let me know where you're going next. What's your next trip? What's on your agenda? And if you have any locations that we should go to next, because we're always down. But thank you so much for watching. I hope this was fun, and I hope you have the best Tuesday ever. Bye!